So trying out the new GoPro, looking at what the battery life is going to be on the drive to work. Took me a little bit of time to figure out how to set up this mount. It won't go on my dash, but let's see. One thing I have to figure out is how to be a lot more talkative on this video. From what I see, all these YouTubers talk so goddamn much. And I also have to see what I'm actually allowed to say and not say.
immigrants' commercial driver's licenses will be canceled on January 5th, 2026. That's just days from now due to an error with the expiration date of the licenses. A similar letter was sent to an additional 2,700 drivers in December, informing them that their licenses would be canceled in mid-February. For all nearly 20,000 immigrants, the DMV intends to cancel their commercial licenses without any affording opportunity to obtain a corrected license or to contest the cancellation. The lawsuit reads, but let's remember the deadly results of allowing illegal immigrants not only to cross the border and be released to the country, but then to give them work authorization and commercial driver's licenses to operate 18-ton trucks, 18-wheelers on our roads. Here's a list we can show you all the way back to the summer in Florida. The illegal immigrant trucker killed 3, attempting to make that illegal U-turn. And back in October, another killed in a truck driving incident. California, they've seen a number of incidences, to include in Ontario, where 3 were killed. And just last month, you had in Oregon another horrific incident that killed 2 after a truck jackknife. And then just weeks ago in Tennessee, a Chinese national kills 1 by causing a deadly multi-vehicle pileup. In Washington State, you had an illegal immigrant trucker failed to decelerate and killed 1. And you know what's crazy is in those last 2 incidences, the Chinese illegal truck driver and the Indian illegal truck driver, those crossed in 2023 in Lukeville, Arizona, where I saw the immigrants coming across, these middle-aged men from all over the world. And in California, the Chinese individual crossed in San Diego, because I looked back at their alien files through my sources of Border Patrol, and you look back at the chaos that the border was, and you realize this is likely going to be a consequence, and yet the previous administration just let it run wild. That's why Secretary Duffy now, to your point, Carly, is leaning in. Here's a little bit what he said.
These are simple rules. These rules are not made up by the Trump administration. I didn't make them up. These are rules that are set up to make sure our roads are safe. And so if you can't speak English, if you haven't gone through the proper training courses, you should be behind the wheel of a big rig. You had Joe Biden that let tens of millions of people into the country, and then you have liberal governors who said, well, they got to work, so let's give them commercial driver's licenses and put them on the American roads, endangering the safety of the American people. So I can't go in across the states and do these checks after relying on the state's law enforcement to help me out. But what I can do, Brian, is I can pull their money. That's the leverage that I do have. I guarantee you that the federal taxpayer is not going to fund their roads and bridges and their systems when they're putting illegals on the roads and endangering the lives of the American people.
What you saw right there is a picture of righteous indignation. I mean, Sean Duffy is pretty even-keeled. He's upset, and rightly so, because you're not just putting American lives at risk. You have been irresponsible. If your state's doling out CDLs to just anybody, they can't read the signs, they can't speak the language. California and New York, and I think those are probably leading the way here, and I'm thankful, not just for us as Americans, but for the people who are out there on the roads. Whether you're American or not, you deserve safety. And these people have to be properly trained. And if they are not, they should not be behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound rig. I mean, this is outrageous. And so thankfully, they're finally making some strong decisions. And Carly, you mentioned it, by eliminating the funding, it will finally compel these states to do the right thing and get these stagers off the road.
And not every truck driver who's getting their license revoked in California is here illegally.
Yeah.
But the number one point of the government on a state level, federal, local, is always to keep Americans safe. And if there are people who are receiving licenses who are in this country and they don't speak English, they don't read road signs, and they're getting these work authorizations that allow them to operate these massive big rigs, and we've seen the footage of a result of what happens. It's frightening. And it's a very good thing that something is changing.
You know what hasn't changed is the Democrats and many in the mainstream media simply making the case that what President Trump and this administration has done to crack down and secure a border from dangers just like this, that it's somehow mean-spirited and cruel to say if you cross the border illegally, then that's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You should just be allowed to stay, despite the fact that we have laws on our books that Congress first passed Title 8, Code US 1325. If you cross the border legally, you've committed a crime. Do it a second time, it's a felony. But yet, here's the AP talking about Venezuela's family's Christmas, saying from the American dream to poverty. And they're leaning into the sympathy of migrants, saying this was not the Christmas that Mariela Gomez would have imagined a year ago, or the one that thousands of other Venezuelan immigrants would have thought. But Donald Trump returned to the White House in January and quickly ended their American dream. Her two sons and her partner returned to the city of Maracay on October 27th after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border to Texas, where they were quickly swept up by the Border Patrol amid the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. They were deported to Mexico, from where they began the dangerous journey back to Venezuela.
Did you notice they said immigration? They didn't say illegal immigration. They always blindly ignore the fact that there are ports of entry, there are ways to come to it. And we love immigration in this country. We want as many legal immigrants as the system can handle. But in this circumstance, again, they're playing a little sleight of hand with the language, and this is exactly your point.
They want to argue that crossing the border illegally is a form of acceptable immigration. To your point, Kevin, it's simply not. And the people overwhelmingly voted across partisan lines, across all demographics, that what we saw in the past 4 years in the border crisis is not acceptable. And we're sadly reporting daily on the deadly consequences. But yet, that AP article really rubs me the wrong way, because no one wants to be cruel, but we either have a country of laws or we don't. And we either have a border or we don't. And that's what this administration's made the decision to say. We do, and we're going to enforce it. If Democrats and mainstream media, but if Democrats are upset about it, then we can change the laws. Because ICE and Border Patrol are not choosing to be cruel. They're carrying out federal immigration law that is on the books.
It's trade-offs. There are trade-offs to everything, and we saw what took place when there were open borders, and you get Venezuelan migrants coming into the country, and some of them are good people, but then you also have Tren de Aragua in them as well, and they were taking over apartment complexes in Colorado, and there are citizens that are no longer on this earth as a result. So the Trump administration came in and changed that, and unfortunately this Associated Press piece is slanted in a different direction, but you can see through all of that.
I'm Steve Josey. I'm Brian Kilney.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Once upon a time in feudal Japan, there lived a young samurai named Yuki, who dreamed of becoming the greatest warrior in the land. He would spend hours speaking about his plans, reading stories of famous battles, and imagining himself winning great victories. Yuki dreamed of mastering many weapons, learning advanced strategies, and earning honor for his clan. He truly believed that having such strong ambition would naturally lead him to greatness. Yet when the time came to train, Yuki always found excuses to avoid the hard work.
See, this is my problem.
The weather was not right, or that he was not feeling well, or that he needed to plan more carefully before beginning. Years passed, and while Yuki's dreams grew larger, his skills remained small. Younger warriors who trained every day soon surpassed him, and Yuki strong ambition and clear goals would naturally push him to act, but his identity as a dreamer created a gap between what he desired and what he was willing to do. He found comfort in imagining his future rather than enduring the discomfort of daily practice. He discovered, as many do, that motivation cannot bridge the gap between wanting and doing. In fact, the more he spoke of his plans without acting, the more his mind rewarded him, as if he had already achieved something. His dreams became a trap, and his inaction became his downfall. The samurai understood how dangerous this gap between wanting and doing can be. Dreams without action quietly waste time, and time, once lost, can never be reclaimed. The larger our goals, the easier it is to feel overwhelmed by their distance, and the more likely we are to delay the small steps that bring them closer. We tell ourselves that preparation is progress, but in reality we are simply drifting further from the work that matters. Centuries ago, the great swordsman Miyamoto Musashi grasped this truth. Unlike those who try to transform their lives in a single moment of inspiration, Musashi devoted himself to small, steady actions performed every day. He knew that greatness was not built in sudden bursts of energy, but through the quiet rhythm of repetition. The samurai, though known for their dramatic battles, became strong through the humble discipline of daily practice. They trained not when they felt ready, but because training was their way of life. To wait for motivation before beginning is like waiting for perfect weather before starting a journey. You may wait forever, while others, who are willing to walk, even in the rain, reach their destination ahead of you. The truth is that motivation is not the spark that creates action. More often, it is the flame that follows it. Action brings momentum, and momentum gives rise to the energy we mistake for inspiration. Those who achieve the most are not the ones who feel inspired every day, but the ones who act even when they do not feel like it. The samurai captured this principle in the teaching of Kaizen Nomichi, the way of small improvements. The mountain is climbed one step at a time, they said, not by staring at its peak and wishing to be there. Even if the steps seem small, they lead to strength because they are repeated. Even if the progress seems slow, it builds into mastery because it does not stop. Imagine a samurai student who feels too lazy to train, yet chooses to practice a single sword form each morning. His friends laugh at the tiny effort and tell him it is useless, but he continues. Over time, the movement becomes automatic. His body grows stronger, his technique sharper, his discipline deeper. Months later, he realizes he has built a foundation that allows him to learn advanced skills with ease, while his friends who waited for motivation remain at the beginning. In this way, the smallest step can carry greater power than the grandest plan. The lesson is clear. Preparation without practice is simply disguised procrastination. Talking without doing creates the illusion of progress while leaving us unchanged. Waiting for motivation is nothing more than handing control of our future to our emotions. The samurai knew that strength lies not in feeling ready, but in acting despite resistance. Yagyu Munenori, one of the great samurai teachers, once said, "The sword that waits for perfect conditions never leaves its sheath. If you wait for the right moment, you may wait forever." Our need for motivation often comes from fear. We fear the discomfort of starting when we feel tired, the resistance of continuing when we lack energy, or the possibility that our efforts will not feel rewarding right away. Yet discipline is not about avoiding these feelings, it is about moving through them. True strength is not the ability to act when conditions are perfect, but the ability to act when conditions are not. The samurai way to break laziness is therefore simple but profound. Begin with small daily actions, no matter how insignificant they may seem. Do not wait to feel ready, for readiness is an illusion. Do not place your trust in emotion, for feelings are fleeting. Instead, place your trust trust in habits and commitments, for they build the foundation of all achievement. As the warriors once said, I am not controlled by my feelings, I am guided by my commitments. Strength does not mean saying, I feel like doing this. Strength means saying, I will do this, whether I feel like it or not. The power to act without waiting for motivation is the power to shape your life. Thank you for watching.
We pulled the chase card in this vintage Neo Genesis box.
In 1615, in a remote mountain dojo in feudal Japan, a master asked his student a question that would change everything. Takeshi, if you face 10 enemies with your sword, how many can you kill? The young samurai answered confidently, all 10, master. The old master shook his head. Wrong. You will kill none. Because the moment you think about killing 10, you have already lost the first. This is the paradox every samurai had to solve. True victory comes not from action, but from presence. Not from technique, but from mind. Not from the sword in your hand, but from the silence in your soul. The samurai who understood this became legends. Those who didn't became corpses. And here's what nobody tells you. This principle isn't about fighting, it's about living. Right now, you're fighting 10 battles: work, relationships, health, purpose. And you're losing all of them for the same reason that samurai died on battlefields 400 years ago.
This is so true.
You're everywhere except here. You're thinking about 10 enemies instead of facing the one in front of you. The question is, are you ready to learn what the samurai knew? Chapter 1, The Awakening. Takeshi's Shame. The year is 1615, feudal Japan. The Tokugawa shogunate has unified the country after centuries of civil war. But in the mountains of Haida province, one dojo still trains warriors in the old way. Takeshi was 17 years old when shame found him. He'd been training in the dojo for 5 years. 5 years of sword practice, meditation, studying the classics. He could execute kata perfectly. His strikes were fast, precise, technically flawless. But he had a problem that no amount of practice could fix: fear. During sparring sessions with bokken wooden practice swords, Takeshi's mind would race. What if I get hit? What if I lose? What if the master sees my weakness? His body would tense. His breathing would become shallow. His perfect technique would crumble. The other students noticed. Whispers in the dojo. Takeshi has good form but no spirit. He thinks too much. He'll never pass the test. The test. The final examination. That separated students from samurai. A real duel, with a real sword against a master. Not to the death, but to the moment where death becomes inevitable. Most students took this test at 18. Takeshi was already 17 and a half, and his master, Yamamoto-sensei, hadn't even mentioned it. One evening, after training, Takeshi approached his master. The old man sat in Caesar formal kneeling position in front of the dojo shrine, eyes closed in meditation. Takeshi knelt and waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. Finally, Yamamoto-sensei opened his eyes. "Master," Takeshi said, voice trembling slightly, "when will I be ready for the test?" The master studied him. Those eyes had seen 100 battles, trained 1,000 students. They saw everything. "You are technically ready now," Yamamoto-sensei said. "But technically ready means nothing. I don't understand, master. Stand up, take your sword." Takeshi stood, gripped his bokken. "Now strike me." Takeshi raised his sword, but his hands shook. His master was unarmed, kneeling. This was the perfect opening, but something stopped him. I can't, master." "Why not?" "Because you're my master. It would be disrespectful." Yamamoto-sensei's face hardened. "Respect? No. You lie to yourself. The truth is you're afraid. Afraid of what happens after the strike.
This is
Afraid
welcome
of
to my life.
reaction. Afraid of failure. Your mind is in 10 places except the one that matters here, now, this moment. The words hit Takeshi like physical blows. Until you learn to be present, you will never be samurai. You will be a corpse with good technique. Go. Meditate on this. That night, Takeshi couldn't sleep. He sat in his small room, staring at the moonlight through the window. He'd dedicated 5 years to becoming samurai. 5 years of sacrifice, pain, discipline. And he was failing not because of his body, but because of his mind. He remembered the master's words, "Your mind is in 10 places." It was true. During every fight, Takeshi was thinking about the outcome, about looking good, about not failing, about everything except the actual moment of combat. As dawn broke, Takeshi made a decision. He would find the answer, whatever it took. Chapter 2, The Principle, Shoshin.
You can ride in 5 easy steps. Step 1, download the Uber app. Step 2, open the app and type in your destination.
Beginner's mind. The next morning, Yamamoto-sensei announced, "Today, no sword practice. Today, we clean." The students groaned internally but showed nothing. Discipline. For the entire day, they swept the dojo, washed the floors, cleaned the weapons, organized the shrine. Manual labor. Mindless work. Or so Takeshi thought. He swept the same wooden floor he'd swept hundreds of times before. His mind wandered. This is pointless. I should be training. The test is coming. I need to improve my technique, not waste time cleaning. Then he noticed something. The master was sweeping too, but he swept differently. Each stroke of the broom was deliberate, focused, complete. When he swept left, he was fully sweeping left. When he swept right, he was fully sweeping right. There was a quality to his movement, a presence that transformed the mundane task into something almost sacred. Takeshi watched, transfixed. After the cleaning ended, the master called him over. "What did you learn today, Takeshi?" Takeshi hesitated. "That? The dojo must be kept clean?" Yamamoto-sensei smiled. "Wrong. Come with me." They walked to a small meditation hall behind the main dojo. Inside, a single scroll hung on the wall. 2 characters in elegant calligraphy. "Chusin Shoshin," the master said. "Beginner's mind. Do you know what this means?" 2. Approach everything like a beginner. Deeper. When a beginner picks up a sword for the first time, what is in his mind? Takeshi thought. Curiosity? Focus on learning? Yes. And what else? Nothing else. Just the sword. Just that moment. Exactly. The beginner's mind is empty of expectation, empty of fear, empty of everywhere except here. The beginner doesn't think about being the best swordsman. He thinks only about this grip, this stance, this swing. The master sat in seiza. Takeshi followed. "Now tell me, Takeshi, when you sweep the floor, where is your mind?" Takeshi felt shame rise. Everywhere else, thinking about training, about the test, about the future. And when you fight with Bokken, the same. Thinking about outcomes, about looking good, about not failing. So you are never actually present for anything. You sweep while thinking about swords. You practice swords while thinking about tests. You are always one step away from reality. This is why you fail. The master's words were gentle but devastating. The samurai's greatest weapon is not the katana. It is presence. Zanshin, remaining awareness. Fudoshin, immovable mind. Heijoshin, ordinary mind. All of these point to the same truth. Be here, now, completely. He gestured to the scroll. Shoshin is the foundation. Empty your mind of 10,000 thoughts. Face only what is in front of you. Takeshi stared at the characters. Chusin, beginner's mind. Master, how do I practice this? Yamamoto-sensei stood. Starting tomorrow, you will train differently. Every task you do, eating, walking, sweeping, sword practice, you will do with complete attention. When you eat, you eat. When you walk, you walk. When you swing your sword, there is only the sword. Nothing else exists. For how long? Until you understand. Maybe 1 month, maybe 1 year, maybe never. It depends on you. That night, Takeshi began. He sat for meditation, but instead of trying to achieve anything, he simply sat, breathing, present. Thoughts arose. Am I doing this right? Is this working? What if I fail? Each time, he acknowledged the thought and returned to his breath. Here, now, this moment only. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done. If you're beginning to understand how presence could transform your life, the way it transformed Takeshi's, join the Presence and Purpose community. Subscribe and walk this path with us as we explore the ancient warrior wisdom that builds modern mastery. Chapter 3, The Test, 30 Days of Presence. The first week was torture. Takeshi's mind rebelled against presence. Every activity felt agonizingly slow. Eating breakfast became an eternity. Walking to the training hall felt like wading through mud. His mind screamed, "This is pointless. You're wasting time. Everyone else is getting better while you're just being present." But he continued, because the master had given him a path, and Takeshi would follow it to the end. Week 2 brought a shift. During morning meditation, Takeshi experienced something strange. For just a few seconds, the constant chatter in his mind stopped. Not because he forced it, it just stopped. In that gap of silence, he heard the wind in the trees outside, the creaking of the wooden building, his own heartbeat. It felt like waking up from a dream, like he'd been asleep his entire life and suddenly opened his eyes for the first time. The moment passed. The mental chatter returned. But now Takeshi knew silence was possible. Presence was real. He intensified his practice. When sweeping, he became sweeping. The movement of the broom, the sound of bristles on wood, the sensation in his arms that was his entire universe. When eating, he tasted every grain of rice, chewed slowly, experienced the simple act of nourishment. When walking, each step was complete, heel to toe, weight shifting, balance adjusting. The other students thought he'd gone mad. Takeshi walks like an old man now. He eats like a monk. Has he given up on becoming samurai? But the master watched, said nothing, waited. Week 3 brought the real test. Sparring session. Takeshi faced another student, a talented fighter named Kenji who had already passed his final examination. They both held Bokken. Old Takeshi would have been thinking, Kenji is better than me. What if I lose in front of everyone? I need to impress the master. New Takeshi simply stood, present, aware. Kenji attacked, a fast overhead strike. And something miraculous happened. Takeshi's body moved without thinking. He sidestepped, deflected, and countered all in one fluid motion. No thought, no hesitation, pure response. Kenji stumbled back, shocked. They reset, fought again. This time, Takeshi wasn't fighting Kenji. He was simply present with the moment. When Kenji moved, Takeshi responded, not from technique stored in memory, but from immediate awareness. It was like the fight was moving through him, not by him. The match ended. Kenji bowed deeply. That was different. You've changed. Takeshi bowed back, saying nothing. But inside, understanding was dawning. Presence wasn't just a meditation practice. It was the source of all warrior power. When you're fully present, you don't react from fear or thought. You respond from awareness. And awareness is always faster, always more appropriate, always more powerful than thinking. That evening, the master called him over. Tomorrow, Yamamoto-sensei said, you will face your final test. Takeshi felt fear rise, then let it pass. Here, now, only this moment. Yes, master, I'm ready. For the first time in 5 years, it was true. Chapter 4, Warrior Psychology, the Science of Presence. Before we continue Takeshi's story, let's understand what was actually happening in his brain. Modern neuroscience has discovered something the samurai knew 400 years ago. Presence is a trainable skill that physically changes your brain structure. When Takeshi practiced being present, he was deactivating his default mode network, the DMN. This is the brain network responsible for mind-wandering, self-referential thinking, and anxiety about past and future. Every time he brought his attention back to the present moment, he was strengthening his prefrontal cortex, the region controlling attention, emotional regulation, and executive function. This isn't mysticism. This is measurable brain change. Studies on meditation practitioners show increased gray matter density in areas controlling attention and decreased activity in areas controlling fear response and anxiety. The samurai didn't have MRI machines. but they understood the principle perfectly. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, wrote in the Book of Five Rings, "In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close, and to take a distanced view of close things." This is presence. The ability to be here while maintaining perspective. The ability to face immediate danger without losing composure. Takuan Soho, the Zen master who advised many samurai, explained it this way: "The mind must always be in the state of flowing, for when it stops anywhere, that means the flow is interrupted, and it is this interruption that is injurious to the well-being of the mind." Modern psychology calls this flow state. The samurai called it Mushin no Mind.
Welcome aboard. In the event of turbulence, please remain seated. Also, Boston wins tonight.
But there's a deeper layer. When Takeshi fought Kenji while fully present, his amygdala, the brain's fear center, had less control over his responses. His body accessed trained movements without the interference of conscious thought. This is what the samurai meant by, no mind doesn't mean having no thoughts. It means thoughts don't control you. The